I'm so upset by this. Thank you, Doc. Like, BBC cut off Free Palestine, but it won't cut a slur. BAFTA was not live. I want you to remember that. Exactly. That's part of the reason why I'm coming online, to discuss that, to discuss the people involved, Michael B. Jordan, Delroy, and the John, I think his name is John Davidson, right? When has it become a problem to apologize for something that's gone wrong, even if it was a mistake? When? When did we stop apologizing for mistakes that we make? If I bump into you and it's an accident, I apologize. I don't make excuses for myself. I apologize. And that's what we should be doing as humans, is if we do something wrong, we apologize. And that's it. Aretha Franklin says in their defense, no, we don't have any kind of language like that at all. No ableist language. James Welsh, how are you today?
I'm very good, Fox. How are you?
I'm good. This is an annoying subject for me, but here we are. Do you want to add something to the conversation? I don't think we've ever spoken before, have we?
Yes, I've joined with you on the live before. I don't think you remember me, but hey, that's why I got you on the follow. But yes.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Indeed. And well, here's the thing. I'm sure you know, like, the background of the dude that said it, and he didn't mean it, and probably didn't mean it. But here's the thing. Delroy Lindo, he actually came out and did you read what Delroy Lindo said afterwards?
I haven't read anything from the people affected. I want to hear from the people
Delroy
who
Lindo,
actually did something.
Delroy Lindo only recently was published by Vanity Fair, like a few hours ago. He basically came out and said that he and Michael B. Jordan did what they had to do while presenting, but he wished that someone from BAFTA spoke to them afterwards. So no one even from BAFTA spoke to them and apologized to them personally. But BBC
I saw
and BAFTA
that.
have come
I
out
saw
and
that piece. Yes.
Yes, but the BBC and BAFTA have apologized, but no one has personally apologized to them, which is kind of awkward and kind of bad. Because I will say
and
that.
Even the apology from the BAFTAs and BBC was, we apologize if anyone was offended. That is an apology from a narcissist. There are obviously people who are going to be offended by the most offensive slur word that could ever be said to black people. It's not if we're offended. And this is not the first time that the BBC have put the N-word on TV. In most recent times, they've been doing it so many more times. And they're trying to do it now because they want it to be normalized. And they want to make sure that, hey, guess what? Let's use this John Davidson, this poor guy. Let's use him and his disability, and we'll put that first and foremost at the front and say, hey, do you know what? The BBC, we're going to push him forward, and then we're going to make him a scapegoat and put him in an awkward position so that we're excused. And that's absolutely unacceptable.
Let me reply to that. The BBC and both BAFTA and BBC were stuck between a rock and a hard place. What I mean by that is the fact that if, like, the BBC and BAFTA didn't invite John to the awards, then suddenly there'll be backlash from people saying, like, the BBC and BAFTA are not allowing a disabled man to, celebrate the film that was about him. And
I'm just going to interrupt you there, James, because I don't think anyone would have ever said, don't invite the guy. The issue is how it's being dealt with. Like I said, first thing is, if I make a mistake, I apologize, we move on. The BBC are at fault. And as John, as a human being, he should also apologize. Like, seriously, just apologize and that's it. Like, it's so offensive. And I don't want to see, right? I don't want to see people, and this is annoying me so far, is that what I'm seeing now is black people with Tourette's being put at the front, being like, do you know what? It's okay because we have these tics. Show me a black person that's got racial tics. Like, just show me anyone, like anyone. I want any black person with a racial tick to come forward and talk at the camera for like 5 minutes or something. And let me hear what you have to say. When you're talking about racism, let's hear the racial slurs that you've got coming out. Because I've just seen many videos that I've just tried to find on TikTok myself of black women, specifically black women with Tourette's, talking about the N-word and saying that they even have that tick in their slur, that slur in their tick, but yet while they're talking, they aren't even saying it. They aren't even saying, and I'm not saying that everyone can control this, right? Because of course they can't. We know that copilia, sorry, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, is involuntary. It's involuntary. However, that was a very diverse group of people, okay? This room was full of diverse people. Why is it that his tick came out when it was just two black men on the screen? There was an Asian woman presenting, and there've been other black people who have said his racial tick came out. I mean, we know it's triggered by certain things, but I'm serious. Like, when it comes to white people, why are we not seeing other races of people, other ethnic groups with racial slurs? Like, show me them. Show me. Show me.
Here's the thing. It's like, if the BAFTAs didn't want any controversy, and I always say this, is like they should never invited him in. Not invite him. They shouldn't have put him where the cameras were, wherever the guests were. They should have isolated him somewhere where it was less pressure. Because I imagine one of the reasons why he was the way he was he was in a very pressurized environment. You asked like why he hasn't apologized yet. Is simply due to the fact that I imagine is the fact that he's probably, feeling bad himself about it. I imagine. I can't. This dude is not a racist in every single way. If you actually go by if you actually, I don't know him personally, but if you actually look in the history of this bloke, which I actually have, go after this incident, I don't see this guy as like a stone cold racist. I just see him as someone who is like mentally ill and he can't control and he can't help the way he is. And looking into what
a disability is not a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's just a disability. There's nothing wrong with disabled people. What I'm talking about and where I'm coming from is from a human perspective. It's a human perspective. If you have the cognitive ability to understand how your actions affect other people, you just apologize, and that's it. Like, that's it. I think it's been made. There's excuses being made, and as I've said, they're making now black people excuse this involuntary racism, which makes the BBC more empowered to keep putting the N-word on television. I have conversations on this platform a lot, and I'm hearing the N-word has been said in schools by children, and now it's on their televisions.
Hi there. Sorry, thank you for having me up. Can I just ask you?
1 minute, Dylan. Thank you for coming. I'd just like to introduce people one at a time because we've got A down there as well, who was up here before you.
No worries.
Thank you. A, are you back?
What are you?
I'm annoyed. That's how I am, because I literally have been pacing around my house just like, I need to talk about this. This needs to be spoken about. But yeah, how are you? What would you like to add this
I'm good.
this afternoon?
Side note, you look really good. Complete side note. But so with Tourette's though, like we know that it's involuntary, so nobody's asking him to apologize for him having Tourette's, right? And an involuntary tick. The issue, however, is BAFTA edited out a Free Palestine. They could have edited that bit out. Then he could have, I don't think they should have put him on stage to apologize, because he could have easily ticked again, and we don't need to pile on somebody that has an involuntary tick. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not his fault per se, but I think a quick statement should have been put out immediately.
Yeah.
Like, not apologizing again.
Alan Cummins came up and did say, do you mean like another statement after then?
Yes, because it was not a direct, like it was aired. So the main issue is the fact that it was aired. and it shouldn't have been aired in the first place. And we know that if they want to edit something out, they do, and they've done it, even in that BAFTA alone. So that should have been edited out, one. And two, I think a lot of people are not aware of how involuntary tics are. That is the issue. A lot of people think that it was intentional. I don't personally think it was intentional, but I also understand why people have their guards up. And I think jumping on Black people and expecting them to have immediate empathy and understanding is weird to me. Like, both things can be true at the same time. Like, I always find it funny when it comes to Black people being offended. And this is not any other word. Like, this is the N word. It's not so. I find it funny how people think that the N word's so casually used even by Black people. It's not that casually used. It's not a word that's so oftenly used, that we barely use it, if that. And it's like, so people are going to be shocked by that. They are going to be shocked. So it's bad enough that they had to they had to go through that on stage, but for it to air and to keep reliving that, it's crazy to me. That should never have happened. But that's what I've got to say.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like, it is very frustrating that people think that it is very much a common word that we use. Of course, we especially don't use it in the UK. Black Americans, even the conversations I've had recently with Black Americans, even they are like, we don't actually use the word that much. But again, this is what happens with social media. And we look at how government propaganda is used and how media is used, is they will push certain things to make them normalized. I've just seen in the comment section as well before, and it just paused 1 minute. And like what I was saying at the top of the conversation was that this situation is going to be used as an excuse to enable white racism. Paul in the comment section says, absolutely class it was. You lot are absolutely rattled. So this is what happens. This is what happens when we start excusing the situation by coupling in and not understanding that you are actively approving the situation by allowing disability to be the excuse. It becomes a problem. The guy should apologize. BBC should apologize. BAFTA should apologize, and we should be able to move forward. But this is what happens. This is why we're having a conversation, because not the right things have been done, and it's all been done on purpose. That's why I've had to make a live like right now instead of actually me being relaxing in my day. Dylan, yes, Dylan.
Hello, thank you for having me. And first of all, I think you're absolutely entitled to your anger. Obviously, I'm not BLK, so I can't really speak on that. But I just wanted to say, and I think you mentioned it earlier. But first of all, the lady that just spoke, she said it perfectly. Actually, coprolalia. The way it works is that it's they hone in on socially inappropriate or taboo words that are spoken without the person actually choosing them. So it's a fact that they, for some neurological reasons that I'm not going to go into, they latch on to words that are highly taboo or shocking or emotionally charged, and they pick them precisely because they are the most socially forbidden, not because the person endorses them, which explains, I mean, this is not I'm not sort of trying to excuse it, but just from the conditions perspective, that's why he will have blurted that word out at the moment where there were two BLK presenters on stage. What I find completely
why? I know we don't choose. I know they don't choose. Yeah. Okay, we know they don't choose, but there was also an Asian presenter, and as I've said, there were many people in the room, and all of his threats went towards Black people. They were towards Black people. So again, this is why I talk about it from a cultural perspective as well as a disability perspective. Because again, I'm asking other people from the global majority, show us what your tics are. This is a neurological thing you guys are saying. Show us the people from the global majority who are also using racial slurs as part of their tics. Show me them.
If you look up his background, and in fact, if you actually watch the movie, I swear, which is actually, it's a very endearing movie, you'll see that as James was saying, he has a background of working with various communities and doing some, he got an OBE for doing work on Tourette's and essentially helping people of all walks of life through with a condition that was very poorly understood by the state and by the NHS. So he's been absolutely, the man is actually, he's a really good guy. Having said that, I think he also, what I find really objectionable is that he had two other, as the lady said, he had two other interjections. And remember, the BAFTAs are filmed sort of in advance, so they're filmed 2 hours before they're actually put on air. I cannot for the life of me understand how, the Free Palestine thing, and there was another one which I can't remember, were essentially bleeped out.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you wouldn't understand, Dylan. Like, you wouldn't understand. Black people understand. People from the global majority
Can I say something to you, please? Fox,
we understand, that's the thing. We understand. That's the thing. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. You're disconnected. Don't interrupt me when we're talking things like that. You can see everybody's waking. I disconnected that guy. We were all waiting patiently. I'm talking to people one-on-one on the panel. You do not come up here and interrupt me, especially when it comes to the topic of racism. You don't do it. You don't get to do it at all in my space. I feel like this is what's going to happen a lot of the time is white people, we need you to also understand racism. You find it very easy right now to understand disability, even though you all will admit and say, well, you know what, I don't know that much about Tourette's and I don't know that much about disability, but you will excuse that immediately. That's what you're doing. That's what you're literally doing. And as I've said, show me the people from the global majority who also have racial tics. Show me them. Just show me them. Like, you've given me the dictionary explanation, Dylan, and no one is saying that Tourette's is an avoidable thing. I've never said that one time, but I'm saying to you what the implications are when we start excusing racism as a tic in the public eye where everyone can see it and that there's no apologies for it. I've seen plenty of people, right, on social media. There's actually some people I do know very well on social media that have Tourette's, white people that have Tourette's, and I've seen them, guess what, apologize if something is offensive. Again, I'm talking about normal human behavior. If I say something that upsets you and it's not my fault, like I said, if I bump into you, if I hurt you, I apologize. Humans apologize. What I'm seeing constantly is excuses for him. Well, he's had to apologize his whole life. You know what? I did a quick Google of all the things that guy's done. I've never seen an apology once. Like, I want to read an article. I want to read an article where he's offended other people and apologized for that. I haven't managed to find anything on this, by the way. I've heard him be like, well, other people just understand my Tourette's. Where is the other way round? Where is the other way round?
Forgive me.
So the thing about the Queen, I read the article. He said, F the Queen. I read that part, but he didn't apologize for it. He said, oh, well, the Queen found it funny. Please, like, let's just get some human involvement in here, because even though he has the tic, it does not stop his human behavior. He can still formulate sentences.
I agree with that.
He can still say, oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean it. That's normal.
I think he did. I think he did apologize afterwards.
No, I don't think there's been an apology. Actually, I think it was kind of just.
I haven't seen it.
Rush. Can I say something about this, or
just 1 minute? Thank you, Doctor, because we go in order here on the panel. We've got Just Dave, who's been waiting for quite some time. But yeah, we'll get to you. Thank you so much. Just Dave, how are you?
I'm good, sir. I think everything you've said is bang on. To be fair.
She's invited me to speak about.
1 minute, Rochelle, please.
I'll get mad. I will actually end up being racist. I will talk mass.
1 minute, Rochelle. Rochelle, there's order here on my panel, please. You've just been, I don't know if you've been listening, but we talk one at a time here, one at a time. Maybe the mods aren't here yet, because again, this is just a random one I'm doing. So hopefully my mods will come by. I haven't really seen anything yet, but please, if there's any problems in the comments section, just at me. Thank you. This is Beth. Beth is here. But if there's anything else that we don't get spotted, please do at me, because then I can, we can sort this out. Thank you, Rasta Pink. And we actually I have 7 mods. Oh, Kruger's also here. Thank you. If there are any problems, please do shout and just say mod. and then they can also help out. So this is a team effort, guys. This is a team effort. Sometimes I don't pick things up. Some things the mods might not pick things up. But for you guys here who also, you know, can see things, please do call it out, and the mods will help, you know, help everybody. Thank you so much. Okay, just Dave, please. Just Dave.
I was just going to say I agree with everything that's been said. I do think the people at fault here are BAFTA and the BBC. This shouldn't have been aired. It shouldn't have been aired. It's the BBC and BAFTA that are at fault.
Big black cock nigger. The life is nigger most.
Like this is the funny thing about racists. It's like that's all they have. But stuff like this excuses their behaviour. You see, like that's it. Like I can't imagine living a life so boring and so pathetic that you literally racism is all you have. Like it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I think it's been.
So please carry on, Jade.
I think it's been obviously with racism. It's been exacerbated by social media. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at social media use and you look at that guy joining this live and doing that, because he's got the platform to do it, he can do it. But I think that's true of quite a few things that are happening on social media when you look at it. But I think everything that's been said is correct. I mean, the guy obviously has Tourette's, which is obviously neurological. I have ADHD myself, so I can only sort of come at it from that point of view of having something you can't control. I do think he should apologise because he's obviously caused offence. He should apologise if he hasn't, because again, like you've said, you can't hide behind a disability. You can't. I say wrong things all the time because of the ADHD, but I don't hide behind it. You can't. But I think again, it also needs needs understanding as well that he didn't obviously mean to do it. It's not something he can control. But I think both things can be true at the same time. That he couldn't control it, but there's also an element that he must have a conscience and know that you can't say these things and just try and explain it in ways rather than people jump on the bloke and go at him. I think there's got to be two things can be true at the same time.
I think also this is a perfect opportunity, right? Because he is an advocate for Tourette's. He is somebody who's literally used his platform to create a film and to get people to understand what Tourette's is. This is his perfect opportunity to say, hey guys, racial slurs are also part of my problem, and this is how I deal with it. This is how I make sure that people feel more comfortable around me in the things that I say. That is it. Like literally, this is a perfect opportunity for him to show his human side. But where is it?
I do. I agree. I don't think it needs to be an apology. Like you've just said, it more needs to be that he sort of uses it to educate, rather than apologise. Actually, go into detail about, like you say, what his tics actually do, and
I think
how they manifest.
apology is important. Because it was not done privately.
He should apologise.
It was not done privately. Yeah, it was not done privately, so it needs to be public. And again, this should be a teaching point for other people like us to understand the depths of what Tourette's can do and how people can be affected. Shan says he knew what he was doing, else he would have shouted when a white person was on the stage. I do know he did shout some other things, but they were very like, F this is boring. Those are the other things that he was shouting. So again, that's why I'll ask for the third or fourth time, show me the people from the global majority that are also shouting racial slurs. Like, just show me them. Just show me them. Show me them. Show me who they are. Show me what they're doing. You know, to me, it's just a very frustrating thing for Black people to constantly have to talk about this and constantly have to put ourselves in the front line when already it's annoying for us to have conversations about the N-word, and now it's being excused. You know, it's being excused, and it's also being broadcast when, like you guys all know, it could have been edited out, but it wasn't.
I think that's the main issue.
So this is why
there
this is why everybody needs to be a bit more smarter and actually understand the depths of the situation. It is not just a simple mistake that was made. It was not just a simple mistake. Okay, we're going to go to Doctor now. Dr. Sertip. How are you, Doctor?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me in. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. So I guess I come at this as an individual, but also as a medical doctor. I happen to be a medical doctor. I think the challenge here is that the N-word is not just a word. It carries with it centuries of violence, dehumanization, pain, suffering, and trauma. So no one can ever pretend to understand how it feels for a black person or black communities when they hear that from someone else. So, I guess as a Kurd, I can relate to it in other ways where we are dehumanized, but not in that way. And I think, so we need to acknowledge that when it comes to the fact that that word in a prestigious space like that, people of all colors, but especially with the two, quite famous actors, Michael B. Jordan, Delroy, Lindo, there to, present themselves, be professionals, and keep their composure and do the job. And knowing that the world is watching them, their peers are watching them, their family, their children, grandchildren, and so on. It's obviously going to be exceedingly painful, even if they rationalize it and say that, this is someone with a condition and so on. So it can reopen wounds, obviously I'm coming at this as an individual, but, I've been through situations where racial stereotypes and things have been used against me. So I'm sure these individuals, no matter how successful they are, and everyone else watching, it reopens wounds, things that's been said to them, the way they've been treated throughout their careers, as children, even when it's directed to them by someone with a condition, and even if they don't maybe necessarily mean it. But at the same time as that, there's Tourette syndrome, which is a serious neurological condition, and it can really disrupt people's lives in all sorts of ways, especially when it comes to saying things that are inappropriate or hurtful of that nature, but also other things, sexist things, all kinds of things, slurs, F words in settings that are inappropriate. And it can be deeply distressing, for everyone concerned. But I think in this case, the setting, the environment, the fact that this individual is obviously an advocate as well, racism, causes real harm, but neurological conditions also deserve compassion. So I think what would have helped is if people came out, especially, the BAFTA, I guess, people, and just, very openly accepted responsibility and apologized for not what was said, but the fact that it was said in that setting, and the fact that acknowledging the pain. So from the technical side, I guess maybe there were issues there where they could have, deleted it or whatever, because there's this lag apparently. I don't know anything about that. From my point of view,
it was purposely left in.
Watch the fucking movie.
Because we know
Watch the fucking movie.
We know that they
Watch the
actually
fucking-
did edit out the Free Palestine. That person is dropped clearly, because again, you see what happens. You have apologists and people excusing Dr. Sertip, who are very calmly explaining the situation from both sides. But yet you have people like that immediately who are like, but it's Tourette's, which means that the racism is okay.
well, here's
That's
the
exactly
challenge.
what somebody was. That's exactly what's going to happen and what's happening. And again, why I've had to create this live.
Can I just quickly answer your question? I really need to go in like 2 minutes.
No, because definitely, I'm sorry, your personal circumstance isn't a reason why we don't go in an order. So if you can't make it on this time, Bethany, then maybe come to another live. But
Sorry, I didn't realise it was in order.
So This moment shouldn't be used to inflame hatred in any direction, but unfortunately, some people are having fun with it because obviously they are racist, which is a deep shame to themselves, but also to people with Tourette's, because instead of empathizing, they're trivializing and they're inflaming the situation. They're making a mockery of it. It should be used to educate, to talk honestly about both things, racism and the brutality of it and the way it brutalizes people throughout their lives, and Tourette's, which obviously causes harm for the individuals and in so many other ways. Instead, people are being childish and pathetic. Not everyone, of course. I'm just talking about the ones who are, the ones that we've heard here. Some who came in and then left with, and that's the problem. That's why it hurts. Nothing that I can say will actually undo the pain, right? There's nothing we can say here that will make that situation anything other than horrific.
If he had the right PR team around him, he would be doing like what you and I have said, which is this is a teaching moment. Him as a person, him and his team would have been like, right, let me now see if I can have an audience with Delroy and with Michael B and explain the situation, apologize, and help us, as I say, as Black people, unpack the trauma, understand that what he said was problematic, but also we understand, like I say, we understand the Tourette's simultaneously, because I think generally people do have a good grasp on what Tourette's is. We know it's involuntary. I'm seeing from the other side, what I'm not seeing from the other side is how these slurs still hurt people. It just doesn't go away. It does not go away.
And you know what? Based on what you said, the last thing I want to say is this would have been, like you say, a great opportunity, because Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo are incredibly powerful and famous people. So to have actually used it as an opportunity to demonstrate what it is and what's happening, because the condition, Tourette's is a neurological condition, but racism is a social disease. So they're both, if you like, a type of disease, the way I look at it. One is biological, neurological. The other one is a social human disease. And they both affect people brutally. So the fact that none of this happened and everyone's just kind of either making fun of it or making light of it, and then the rest are just brushing it on the carpet, and then there's some who are ignoring it. That's the problem. Yeah. That's the issue. That's what hurts people on all sides. But thank you for letting me speak. And as I said, there's nothing I can say that will improve the situation other than saying, let's try and learn from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your very valued opinions and points and experience as well too. Thank you so much. Evan Waters in the chat, a white gentleman, says, would it be offensive if a black man with Tourette's shouted it? What's the thing I've asked about 3 or 4 times now? Show me the black or brown people or anybody from the global majority that have racial slurs as their tics. That's all you need to do. If it's happening in the reverse, and it definitely is a neurological problem where racism or racial slurs is part of the problem, part of the disability, just show it to us. Just show us where these people are. Okay, Jade, we've got Jade next. Jade, how are you?
Hi. Thank you so much for letting me up today. So, to be honest, the last 2 people that have come to speak, I think I agree massively with the points they've already made. I think the only thing I would actually add to is, considering the wider conversation, why was that chosen to air? And it opens up that discussion for institutionalized racism, because the individual themselves, they have a disability, but we've already talked about the fact that they should have taken accountability of that. Not so much for their disability. Nobody says they have to apologize for their disability, but also opening that discussion and going so people understand. But we also have to have the conversation about, why was that allowed to air? Why did the BBC, or why did the BAFTAs, why did this white institution decide that that was okay to air, but not air any of his other tics? Or maybe not even air, the other activisms or the other pieces of activism that we saw from the pro-Palestinian groups or the other pro groups that we've seen. They were chosen to be cut out of it, yet that is left to air. And I think that's a wider conversation that a lot of people are just ignoring, because it's like the conversation's there about racism, and we're talking about this individual's racism and the fact that he's not apologized for it, but we've also got to talk about the institutional racism that comes along with it as well, because why was that allowed to air? They had time to cut that out. Do you know what I mean?
As we know, black people, brown people, we know it's intentional. Like, we know this stuff, Jade. We know this. We know the agendas, because the UK has already been like this. The UK was built upon racism. It was built upon it. It's in the systems, you know, and we know. And this is why I've had to start talking about racism even more this past few weeks, because I know exactly what's happening. I know the excuses that are coming through now, you know, and people are only waking up now and being like, well, I'll stop paying my TV license. Why didn't you stop it when Jimmy Savile was doing his things? Why didn't you stop it when Hugh Edwards was doing his things? Why weren't you doing it back then? This institution has been constantly under fire, but you didn't care that much. It's because you wanted to watch EastEnders. EastEnders watching was far more important than your friend, your neighbour, your colleague, or everybody else who's been affected by the BBC. It was more important that you could Sky Plus and record your favourite TV show than any of this stuff. You know, and I think people are not annoyed enough at the BBC, because what I find generally in the UK is people are so fickle when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, they are so fickle. Activism, like when you see activists in the UK, what do people say about activists? They say that you guys are the troublemakers. They say, I'm a troublemaker. I've been an activist since I was about 15 years old. That's the problematic person, because in the UK mindset, if you go against the grain, there's something wrong with you. And we've constantly been put as the people who are problematic, rather than the people who actually can see the bigger picture and are trying to help the wider group of people. Because the things that we're advocating for also includes white people too. It includes your rights as well. But people just don't want to listen. Yeah, they don't want to listen.
Have been on the front line with activism since the very start. And that's what a lot of people fail to realise as well. And, you know, you've got to think about it in the sense, the only motivation that I can see for them making the choice to air that is it's, in a way, giving all those right-wingers an excuse to perpetuate that racism. And if anybody else can't see that motivation right there, you've got to look inwards, because I'm sorry, what was their motivation for airing that and not airing the others? Why would they do that, but cut out the pro-Palestine stuff? That doesn't make sense.
Jade, the thing is, I need you to understand something right now, Jade, and maybe it is because you're Welsh as well, is that you have, of course, a tie to the original British land, the Celtic land, where you're more likely than your English neighbours to understand the depths of racism and the consequences of racism. Like, this is just genetically in your DNA, right? It's in your blood. So what you need to understand, Jade, is you as a white person, it is so important that your voice on these subjects is made. Like, and I say this a lot of time to white people who have come into my panels and the conversations we have. I make it very clear to you guys that you must keep talking about this stuff, because we know, as you know, we know. But the problem is that white people don't listen to us when it comes to racism. They listen to you. And of course, it's difficult because they'll come around and say, well, you're a race traitor and all this kind of stupid stuff that they say, right? But at the end of the day, it makes us realize, do you know what? Actually, you guys do know what you're talking about and you are doing the right thing. You know, you are becoming more part of the global majority, which is so important for us to get on as people, as the billions of people that we are. It is important that we all have advocates. We all must be advocates for each other all of the time, not just some of the time, all of the time. Thank you, Jade. Really appreciate your voice. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to the next person. That's okay. Thank you so much. We've got ABC next. ABC, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. What would you like to add to the conversation today?
Yeah, I have a bit of maybe it's a bit of a contrarian opinion, but can I ask you a question first, if that's all right?
You can
Like,
ask me a question. I have
just
the
as
right to obviously answer or not answer depending on the content. On the
yeah, of
content
course,
the
of course.
question.
So it's just like a thought experiment, you know. So if I told you that, you know, there's a person who wants to chat to you that's an extremely high level narcissist, right? Would you want to speak to that person, or would you think they're probably not a good
What's that
person?
got to do with the what's that got to do with the topic of it being about the N word, disability interact?
Well, that's the thing. Narcissism is classed as a mental health disorder according to the DSM-5.
What's narcissism got to do with a disability? You're talking about mental health issues. Disabilities are not mental health issues.
That's what I'm saying. They're basically within the same category of mental health, neurological problem.
Man, we don't have. I'm dropping you because we don't have ableism here. If you're coming up here and trying to say that a disability is a mental health issue, then you are incorrect, sir. And that is ableism. And I don't allow that on my platform. Do not equate those things at all. It's not the same thing, because you can choose to be a narcissist. You can choose to be a narcissist. You can undo your narcissism. You can't undo your disability. So don't do that here. Mike Smith, please. How are you today? Okay, they're gone. Bethany, you're still here. Bethany, what would you like to add?
Hey, I just wanted to answer your question. Do you know how you were asking, like, how many people do say racist slurs and all that stuff? Only 10 to 30% of people with Tourette's have coprolalia, which is the swearing, the racist slurs and stuff. So it's not the majority of people with Tourette's have that side of it.
Yeah. I think most people realise it's not most of them, yeah.
No, I was just answering your question because you were asking where are all the people saying the slurs and stuff like that, and it's not the majority.
Let me phrase it again. No, what I'm saying is of that 30% of people that you brought up, this statistic of 30%.
Yeah, 10 to 30%.
Turn to 30%. Show me the ones from the global majority that are also using slurs. Because I've gone on TikTok, I've gone on various platforms, I've gone to Instagram, I've gone to X, and I'm looking specifically at people from the global majority, and I'm looking for them and their racial slurs as ticks. I have not been able to find any.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood your question then.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you for trying to clarify. And of course, getting the statistic as well. The statistics are also important as part of the conversation. But that is literally what I'm trying to get at. You know, it's like we can't keep making excuses for the racial side of Tourette's if it's not affecting everybody across the board. You know, that's
but I don't think Tourette's is a one size fits all. Like, they're not all going to have racist tics or misogynist tics or sexist tics. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, because people are trying to say that the racial element is normal. That's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to normalize this. And what we're talking about here is actually, it's not normal, actually. You've already said it's a very small percentage of people that have the coprolalia, and even smaller percentage in that that have racial tics, you know? So that's what we're trying to get at. Yeah. Thank you, Bethany. Amy, we're going to move to the next person. Amy, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What would you like to add to the conversation today?
Not too much, because I think everything's kind of been said that I was also thinking. I personally think that the BBC should have done a risk assessment. I think they should have known. Like, I've watched a podcast with John in it, and he said that racism is part of his tics. This is known. He said this prior, and also that he'll shout like obscenities to overweight people, to women, etc. So a lot of things, offensive things, could have been shouted during this. I don't understand how the BBC didn't do any sort of risk assessment. They didn't think of this prior. It's just mind-blowing. I just can't believe it, to be honest.
Well, they obviously didn't do any sort of risk assessment because they wanted to use him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he's been completely set up.
They wanted to use. Yeah, he's absolutely been set up, the poor guy. As I say, I want people to know, I empathise with the guy. I really do empathise, but I'm seeing things from a bigger perspective. from the consequences of this, you know, it's the consequences and what he has to personally do in this situation so that he is not coming out as the bad guy. It's up to he has a responsibility. The BBC and BAFTAs will do what they do because they are an establishment. They are a system. You know, it is up to John, unfortunately, to do what he needs to do now and advocate correctly for the Tourette's community, because there are other people, even other Tourette's speakers are upset by this because even Tourette's people, and I'll say white Tourette's speakers I've seen have been very disappointed and sad by this situation because they don't want to be seen as if they are racist. They don't want to be seen, you know, in the same way. So, you know, and that's what I've said throughout this whole live is that it needs to be a teachable moment for people. It needs to have accountability from John himself, because the BAFTAs and the BBC have done their bit. They've done their, we're sorry if anyone was offended, if anyone was offended, but it's about how us as a community on the hierarchy that we live in, right? We're the civilians. We're the civilians. So it's us on the ground level who are having these conversations. You know, and I think it's very frustrating that, you know, I'm seeing a lot of comments down there just saying, you guys don't understand he has Tourette's. Have I said anything about me not understanding that he's got Tourette's? No. Because people are saying, watch the film. What do you want me to learn from the film? I've watched many films about Tourette's. I know as much as I can as somebody without Tourette's. I know as much as I can. And I'm learning a bit more, of course, here about the racial elements of Tourette's. I'm learning a bit more from today. But as I said, we cannot excuse racism and make it be as part of a disability where you don't apologize for things that are out of your control. Like I say, if I bump into you and it's an accident, oh, I'm sorry, we move on. It's very freaking quick. It's very quick. I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry that I did this in such a big stage. You know, let's talk about how this actually does affect people. Let's talk about that part, shall we? You know, he's as I said, he's an advocate. We all know he's an advocate for this. He's an advocate. So why don't you advocate for all parts of it and how actually it is hard for you as well to have people upset by something that you can't control? Talk about that too. Talk about that too. You know, Mrs. Todd says he does. Well, where is he talking about the racial stuff? Like where? Again, show it to me. Thank you, Amy. Chloe's here.
Hey, lovely.
Hi, darling. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. I've seen so much around this today, and to be honest, it's been a real mixture of content that I've seen. Now, obviously, you just touched on the fact of talking about people from the, you know, like people of colour talking about this and who have Tourette's and how it affects them. Now, obviously, you know, we're not going to see people of colour being racist because that isn't a thing. But I've definitely seen some people which, you know, I wouldn't just randomly send you things, but as you're doing this, if you want me to send you some of the videos that I've interacted with today, I'm happy to do that. You know, there was a BLK man talking about his interactions with his own mother growing up, about the kinds of horrific things he would say to her, which obviously is absolutely not how he felt about her. You know, he said, the way he summed it up made so much sense to me. And I'm not saying it excuses it. And in my opinion, you know, the harm was public. The apology should be public. You know, that's how I feel about this.
Chloe, I want to hear or see more examples of white people who have racism as part of their tick and them realizing that it has consequences to people.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
And it does. Of course it does. And like I say, when I first came in, obviously I've missed kind of some of what you've been talking about here. But, you know, I said, you know, the harm was public. The apology should be. You know, it sounds like he has apologized to the people that were there, you know, the people that were involved in terms of.
Where did you read that?
There's a couple of articles online. I'll see if I can find them. I think one of them was on Facebook. I think it was like The Week or something, which is like a small publication. Whether it's true or not, who knows? You never know these days. But it sounds like perhaps there has been some private apologies, but to me and probably everybody, not that it affects me in terms of me being directly harmed, but it has affected the wider, potentially global viewers because it's the BAFTAs. So
yes,
intent or not, control of it or not, involuntary or not, harm has been caused, and this is the same conversation, you and I have had, and in this room have kind of had in so many occasions. He knows that it's obviously going to be harmful, and I'm sure it's not nice for him to have to deal with either, which, there is empathy there. But still, the reaction and the fact that this is literally everywhere. It's all over every news channel. It's all over every social media channel.
People are saying, like, so Chloe, because I did look this up, I Google everything. Again, I haven't seen any apology from him. You've said you've seen something from the week on Facebook. And somebody else has come up here and said the same thing, which is what I've seen, which is that Delroy and Michael have said that they've not had any direct conversation with BAFTA BVC or John himself. To this point, into us having this conversation now, there's not been anything said directly to the people who were affected. There was, of course, the public apology from BAFTA and BBC. We're sorry if anyone was affected, but nothing to do with the people, the 3 people involved. So let's be clear on something real quick. Delroy, Michael, and John are all victims of this, okay? All of them are victims of this. Delroy and Michael having to hear the most nastiest, offensive word that can ever be heard by black people, and John being put in a situation where he was not safeguarded enough to make sure that his slurs were not being heard by other people. The fact that it could be heard, like someone said this earlier, why was it that it was picked up on microphones? Why was it that he was not maybe set a bit further back? Of course, we don't want to put baby in the corner. But, all of these things should have really been thought about, clearly, because he's openly said, some of my tics are racist. But again, that's not going to happen, because if you know the BBC and you know the UK, they always have an agenda of some kind. They always have an agenda of some kind.
That was part of what I wanted to add. I don't know if anyone said about the fact that obviously the actor that plays him in his film, like in the film that is about his life, won. And I do wonder if part of this controversy has been created in order to promote the movie. I don't know if anyone else has said that. I don't know if that's been said in here, but I do wonder, because now it's like, oh, Tourette's is on everybody's lips, and there's a film to promote here. Oh, sorry, the dogs. Yeah. So I wonder if that's part of it.
Because look at what everyone, or the white people who are excusing the racism are saying, go and watch the movie, go and watch the movie. But the rest of us are saying, we ain't watching the movie. Even more so, we're not going to watch the movie. I'm not going to watch a movie from a person who has the N-word as their slur. It has the opposite effect, actually. And you guess who was going to watch the movie now? It's going to be the racists, actually, who are going to watch the movie. Is that what he actually wanted? Probably not. But that's actually what's going to happen now. The racists are going to now back up and say, hey, let's watch this. It's ridiculous. Thank you, Chloe. Ray. You got Ray. Listen, El Cono, you're being disconnected because clearly you can't control yourself, and I've muted you, okay? And I'm sorry, one at a time here in the panel. Go one at a time. 1 minute, Ray. If you can't control yourself, El Cono, then you get dropped. And clearly you are up here to not have a decent conversation. And so you are now blocked as well. So really enjoy the block button. Ray.
Hi.
Go ahead.
So I seen this earlier. It popped up on my feed page not long after I jumped out to the box earlier. And I was a bit on the fence about it, to be honest, because I felt a bit...
Hello? Are you still there?
I got a phone call, sorry. I felt a little bit bad because it was a little bit like, do you get what I mean? Like, can we really? But then at the same time, when I thought about it, for that way to be a part of his takes, he must have had, like, for him to have racist takes, I'm not saying that he is a racist, or I'm not trying to be ableist, I'm not trying to come for the fact that he's got Tourette's, but he must be around people who are racist for that word to be such a...
I am. It's me.
One sec.
So hold on. Don't talk over people, please. You see, everybody else here is waiting patiently. Fabio, we'll come to you when it's time. Ray, I don't know enough about, but we did have somebody else earlier who did mention that racial tics can be part of it. But as I said, I can't talk about things from a professional point of view because I don't know enough, right?
But
I don't know enough.
Understandably.
However, Ray, 1 minute, Ray. However, the point that I'm trying to drive home is that if racial tics are part of every single person who has coprolalia, and in this 10 to 30%, show me the racist slurs from every single demographic of people to make it so it is actually true. Because we know that white people, with or without Tourette's, love to say racist shit. Like, we're very aware of the things that they say.
That was really racist from you,
So like you say as well, Ray, it could also be possibly that he's been around those people and it adds into it, because I've seen documentaries, of course, where Tourette's people say, well, I heard this thing and now it's what I've copied, and it's what's actually become part of their vocabulary as well, and becomes even more of a problem in the vocabulary, So, it's very frustrating that this is a conversation for first of all, but again, I'm asking people from the global majority, show me who you are that are also saying racial tics. Like, just bring them to the front.
I feel like I've met a lot of people with tics though, and I've never been racially abused by them. Do you get what I mean? Like, and I can understand, and I am hearing what people are saying, that they can be racial tics, and that's why I'm on the fence about it, because I don't want to be ableist. I don't want to make that the problem. I think my issue with it is, like you said before, why was it not censored out? Because when you look at, say for example, Green Day, that was censored. What's the black man's name now? Oh, he was all over the news for when he said Free Palestine. That was censored. Do you get what I mean? Like, there was, like you said before, it is 3 victims. Like, we can't say that he's not being a victim, because he has been a victim. If it is, I don't know this person. I don't know. I've never heard him until this incident. So I don't really want to give too much of because I know what I'm like. I can come across quite negative, so I don't want people to misunderstand what it is that I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is he's been humiliated, yeah, of course, but the 2 people also have been humiliated. There should be a public apology. People have been reading the comments and people have been saying, oh, but the only people involved. Well, no, because they were publicly humiliated. So then their family are going to have been affected by that. Their friends are going to be affected by that. Their associates are going to be affected by that. Other people who look like them are going to be affected by that, because it's showing the lack of accountability from not only the BBC but other people. Just because he has Tourette's does not mean he could have racial tics. Does not mean that he can't then still say, okay, if he's already said that he's got racial tics, then he could already turn around and say, I'm sorry. Do you get what I mean? Like, if it's public knowledge this man's has racial tics, then it should be public knowledge that then there should be a public apology, because it was a public incident, and it is as simple as that. Now, I have mental illness, I have disabilities, I come across a lot of people who have got disabilities. I know people who are, neurodivergent and sometimes say like the wrong things because they don't have like the social cues or whatever. Doesn't mean that they don't have doesn't mean that they can't then take accountability. Do you get what I mean? Like, accountability is such a big thing. I don't think as well, just to like
We've got a lot of people in the comment section as well who are saying that they also have tics, but they don't also have slurs as part of their tics, which is okay. But what we're trying to address is those people that do unfortunately have slurs. How do they actually deal with those slurs when they affect other people? Because this is what we're trying to get to the crux of the matter. People with tics, you guys are also here. I understand the struggle of it. I understand how frustrating it will be for you to not have control over something. It's very frustrating. But at the same time, you guys, I don't want you also to not understand somebody else with a racial tick. Like, I want you to understand all of it, understand all of this disability. You know, we all have to understand it in order for us to be around it, in order for us to have empathy towards it, you know. And as I said, I've seen other people with tics, other white people with tics getting very upset that they think that people think that they're racist now. Like, they're also upset. But as I said, and I've said before, I said this earlier, that this should be a teaching moment for John himself to sit down and discuss this and talk about it on a wider platform, to apologize for what he said, even though of course it was out of his control. But again, as human beings, we always should apologize for the things that we don't do intentionally. If I bump into you as a person, I'm going to apologize. If I'm in a car accident, which I have been, of course I apologize to that other person. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, apologize, because it's a human behavior.
I also, I kind of ask your back a little bit, because I feel like I feel like people don't really understand you. Like, you bring attention to things that need to have attention brought to, and I don't want people to come into this live and think anything ill of you, because you're not
That's
trying
not,
to.
I don't care
this
about
isn't
that
the
kind
point.
of shit. Ray,
Like,
Ray. I don't care about that shit.
I know.
What the problem is, Ray, Ray, is 1 minute. What the problem is that we constantly have white people excusing racism, regardless of what body the person comes in, right? So that's why we have to have this conversation. I'm very not happy. I didn't want to bring this conversation to the table because I just want to enjoy my television, you know, for the night. And I don't care what happens in the chat, because I thankfully have really great mods, including yourself, Ray. You know, that people get muted and people get blocked if they don't understand the conversation and want to excuse racism because because they can't understand on a higher level that we're not also being ableist at the same time. We're understanding the depth, and this is the problem with humanity. A lot of people struggle to understand the deeper conversation. Other people have rightly brought up the BBC, rightly brought up safeguarding, rightly brought up, like myself, have brought up that there are 3 victims here, and John is also a victim here. We have the ability to go deeper in the conversation. Unfortunately, you do have racists in the conversation who are now excusing disability. They're now excusing disability from the racism. That's their limitation. So we don't need to worry about any of that kind of stuff, Ray. Ray, do you want to add anything else?
The only other point that I'm going to drop in a minute, the only other point that I want to make as well is everyone keeps on saying about, you know, it's in songs, I listen to those songs, doesn't mean I use that word, and I'm a black person, mixed race person. I can't stand using that word, and I vocalise that very, very often. I call out people who look like me for using that word every other day. This isn't me sitting here, like, again, I don't want it to seem like we're all being ableist and we're saying like, oh, because that's not what it is. It shouldn't be. They should not be, in my opinion, racial tics, because they shouldn't be racism so easily thrown about for people who have got Tourette's to be easy to have a racial tic. That is where my brain kind of went with it.
Because somebody came up here earlier, Ray, and said, well, that guy's not racist. Like, how do you know? Like, literally, how do you know?
But
how do you know that he's actually not racist?
I think that's the point that I was trying to say it when I first said, like, you don't know who this man associates himself with. You don't know. None of us know. You can talk about the film and you can talk about documentaries all you want. The way that I look at it, that is media that is being controlled. Media is a controlled source. And that is my biggest point, is media is a controlled source. So why was it not censored out? Why is there not being a public apology? Because it was a public incident. But again, I don't know this person. I don't know who this person associates himself with. And at the end of the day, people are going to come at me for this. Because he is white, there is going to be that fear of not knowing where these racial slurs have come from. It's like, you say look at it from like a child's point of view. A child doesn't know racist terminology unless they're taught something like that. Do you get what I mean? And I think that is the point that quite a few people, that's the gist that I've got, is that that's where a few people are picking up on it, is where do people get these racial slurs from? And that's the point. This is why lives like this are so important, and why your lives are so important. And I think that is the point that I was trying to make, is you bring attention to racism as a whole. Do you get what I mean? All elements of racism you bring attention to, because racism should not be a thing. It should not. So incidents like this do not happen. So then people are who have got Tourette's don't become victims. Like, this is it's like you said before, it's a bigger issue. It is so and I think people lack the emotional intelligence, and I'm sorry for saying that and offending people, but I actually don't care. But because you lack the emotional intelligence, you can't see the bigger picture. There shouldn't be racism. There shouldn't be, if it was a slur against, the J words, or the is not real, then that would have been censored out straight away. So why can we give a certain demographic of people? Why can we give a certain demographic of people so much grace and so much accountability, but not people like us?
That's really important what you've brought up, because we have to understand here the types of word that were censored. We know Free Palestine was censored. If somebody else has the P word slur or something like that, how would it be handled? And all I can keep doing is bringing it back to being like, this is supposed to be a teachable moment. What we're seeing now in the chat, Black people, brown people, you can see it. There are white people here who are excusing the tick. They're excusing it. They're not understanding that we have empathy for the tick. But as Ray said, we want to know where this tick comes from. We want to see the bigger picture. Where did he learn it from that it became such a problem? This is what we want to learn.
I want to learn about that.
And as I've said, Ray, please, I'm going to have to mute you for a minute because I want to finish my sentence. We want to know, and I'll say it again for the 6th or 7th time now, show me the people from the global majority who also have racial tics. Show me them. Give me links, guys. If you guys know these people, put them in my DMs. DM me these other people who also have racial tics as well. Show them to me. Show them to me. Okay, thank you, Ray. We're going to move to the next person. TC, how are you today?
Hi, thank you so much for this conversation. I've been also looking at everything today. I am an American living in the UK. I've been here for 8 months. And what's been really heartbreaking is kind of seeing people, kind of gaslight Black people. I'm a Black person, I'm African American, but kind of gaslight Black people into trying to tell us that we shouldn't feel bad, or we shouldn't feel humiliated, or we shouldn't have an issue with this because the person has Tourette's. And I've seen this kind of up and down, kind of all of the different UK media today. And when I look at Michael B. Jordan, and I think the other actor's name is Delroy, they've come out on their platforms probably in the last, hour. And I think you said this too. They have not received an apology. And I think that's completely unacceptable. And just taking it a step further, I don't know what has happened in the UK when it comes to race, but I lived here in 1999. I'm back now, here now, and I cannot tell you in the last 8 months the discrimination that I face almost on a daily basis. And when I was here in 1999, it was different. Like, the UK felt more international. But I honestly believe, based on my experience and a lot of other people I talk to, like a lot of the, for example, African Uber drivers I take daily, I honestly think that this could have been something that was actually set up or that was meant to happen. Because like what you said, because like what you said, if it would have been something like Free Palestine or Down with the Monarchy or something like that, I guarantee you the BBC would have found a way to take it out. But now
they did take out Free Palestine.
Yes.
They did take out Free Palestine.
Yes. And so it just kind of seems to me that it just, when you pull it all together and then you look at kind of how the actors, they have not received the public apology, and you kind of see the gaslighting that's being done by the media here in the UK. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it was something that wasn't supposed to happen.
It definitely was supposed to happen 100%. So in the UK, the UK was built on racism. England has had 24 race riots since 1919. A lot of the history and a lot of the problems in the UK get very much swept under the rug because, of course, you've got America taking a lot of the spotlight. Those of us who have lived in the UK, we have understood things on a very passive aggressive, very covert level. And, you know, people try to say, oh, racism is on the rise. It's not on the frickin' rise. It's always been there. Now it's just being platformed again because it was back, because in the UK, the brown people, there used to be something called pea bashing. I don't know if you had this in America, but in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and it's coming back around today, white people used to purposely go in groups to beat up brown people. They used to unalive them simultaneously. And again, of course, now with the massive rise of Islamophobia, it has come back round again. We are literally having brown kids unalived. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Like, literally, this poor boy walking home in the neck, he's gone. He's gone, you know, and we're seeing a lot more of the young, and this is the scary thing now, is that there are younger white boys now, because when we were younger, we only heard really about one case, which was the James Bulger case, where it was two white boys unaliving another white boy. Okay. But now we're seeing that these unalivings are going cross races, right? So we're seeing a lot more of white people unaliving immigrants of all colors, by the way, all colors. And of course, it is now even more so, just more so from the younger people. That's what the scariest thing is, because of course before it was all older, it was all adults doing this stuff, but it's kids now that are getting so indoctrinated by this stuff. We have this conversation on here that there are white kids in school saying that they can use the N-word. They're saying that they can use it. And even black kids are getting penalized for using the word. When I was at school, like even me as a person, I'm 42 years old. I've only heard that word being said live twice in my life. Once was my next door neighbor said it to his white friend, but then as soon as he saw me and my sister, he was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. The second time I was walking in San Francisco past Union Square and a man was shouting, actually this is the third time, second time was in San Francisco, shouting at it. I was so far away, shouting at me. And then in my hometown where I was from, only about 5 years ago, he was shouting at me, then another guy, you know. So, and as we've said earlier, is that this word is not in the mainstream. It's not in the mainstream. Media pushes the word.
Exactly. It's not in the mainstream. And I think one of the things, just real quick, what you said about the youth, it's funny you're saying that because I noticed that too. I'm in your age group as well. And at least kind of in the States, when you come across, say, like kind of, I don't know, loud young teen boys, like, you know, they may kind of maybe like, I don't know, like accidentally bump into you, or they may be rowdy or something like that. But for the most part, they kind of respect people that are older. But here, when I'm walking around in the UK now, the young kids, you can tell the way they look at me as an African-American, like, you know, older woman, you know, in my 40s or whatever. You can tell that there is a hate there in the boys or in the teenagers that I've never seen before. Usually the kids are just kind of rough and they're playing around. But I think like what you're saying, it's something that's becoming indoctrinated in the country. And I didn't see that when I was here in 1999.
Definitely true. And I think what's really interesting is from this conversation, suddenly everybody is an expert on Tourette's. Like suddenly, right? You've got a lot of white people being like, it's Tourette's, educate yourself. These people don't know anything about Tourette's. They've literally just read a paragraph on it today. We had a literal doctor up here explaining Tourette's earlier. Maybe you guys missed this. And of course, we do have some people that do have Tourette's. But suddenly, white people know everything because they've suddenly learned the word coprolalia. And the fact that you can now spell coprolalia, I bet you tried to type that up many times and you're autocorrect and you really struggled with that. But this is the thing about white people. They think they know everything straight away and they need to have excuses for everything all of the time. That's why it's so important for us to have these conversations and for us to know better, because we do. Because we do. Thank you so much, TC, for adding your voice.
Cheers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, TC. Okay, the next person we got is XP. This is going to be the last rotation of the panel, guys, because I'm tired now. XP. Sorry, it's not XP. It's Greek writing.
It's Greek.
No,
it's Greek. Sorry. Hi, I'm all right. I'm well.
Yeah. How do I pronounce your name?
Just coming to the thing.
How should I address you?
It's Chris.
1 minute.
Chris.
How should I address you?
Chris. Chris
Okay,
is fine.
What would you like to add?
I'll start off with the basic sort of the fact that why does disability excuse you from racism? I think what people are not understanding is the fact that you're not separating intent from like what actually happened. And I know you said this earlier when you said, oh, how do you know he's not racist? How do you know I'm not racist? And like, I don't think your everyday person is a racist.
We cannot assume. Chris, we cannot assume that he's not. But it's interesting that's the part you picked up of the conversation, because we've talked a lot. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but you picked up that part there because clearly that triggered something in you, Chris.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to deny that it did.
The Tourette's part or anything like that.
Because I'm going to go on to that.
The BBC part or anything else. But you've just talked about the racist part. Why would you assume that he's racist? Because that's something that
because you've given me 30 seconds to actually get on to the rest of it.
Go ahead, continue. Well, I'm just picking that up because maybe you don't understand that's your consciousness. I'm reflecting that back to you. But carry on.
No, I'm just not finished. You started speaking over me before I finished my point.
No, go on. I said you can continue.
Well, what did you? I was in the middle of talking. You interrupted me. We'll say you're not going to do that again. But anyway, where was I? Jesus. The whole point of the fact that I was talking about is my main point. Okay, let me get to my main point. So I'm not rambling because I do have a tendency to do that. Yeah. Let me get to my main point. The fact is. Okay. It is, I'm sure, okay, as you said literally just now about how lots of people now like suddenly claim to understand what Tourette's is saying. I agree with that. No, I feel like a lot of people are saying that they understand a lot more than they actually do. But I feel like the basis of Tourette's is something uncontrollable. Am I wrong? Would you agree with me on that?
We're very aware of that part.
Yes. Therefore, why does it contribute to the fact that it would be deliberate? So, for example, it is not necessarily racist.
No, but I don't think anybody said it. Chris, nobody has said it's deliberate here. Nobody has said
people in the comments, you have said it. You said it's deliberate. What?
I never said. No, I didn't say that. I did not say it was deliberate.
You did not say
at all.
Okay, well, maybe I'm schizo.
No,
maybe
I didn't say that.
Maybe I'm schizo. Maybe I don't know. But
no, don't say that about yourself.
Honestly, I don't know what this woman is on about.
Well, Zoe, please don't interrupt, but please don't say that about yourself as well, Chris, because sometimes we do get the wrong end of conversations. We get the wrong end of the stick. Maybe that has said in the chat, but I haven't seen it. But again, that's not something that we've discussed up here on the panel. We haven't said it up here.
Okay.
And we can't control what someone else has said in the chat, you know?
No, that's true. No, can I say, like, not specifically about this situation, about what you were talking about with the person before, with the American that was on here before?
Yeah.
Okay, am I right in saying, like, you are about double my age, okay? I'm 19.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, in my personal experience growing up, like now, the use of the word is become common, like, not obviously not for me and like for other white people or anyone who's not black. That the use of the word has exploded in the past 15 years. It has become a lot more commonly used than specific, and it's not genuinely down to racism. It's not genuinely down to people being racist and using the word in a racist sense. No, I would say it's mainly down to black people now using the word more comfortably.
So let me educate you then, young man.
Okay,
Let me educate you a little bit.
Okay, go on then.
So
Educate me.
what happens in the world, like I've said earlier, and like us, a lot of us know that certain things get pushed a lot more. Let me tell you something. The N-word has been available in rap music for like 50 years.
100%.
Like 50 years. We've grown up around the music. We know it exists. But what happens is the media starts pushing certain things and tries to make certain things acceptable in order to humiliate people from the global majority. That's how things happen. This is how things happen. And it is disappointing for me that, again, like I've said, I'm hearing more of the word being said through school. This was not something that was ever said around. I said about the 2 stories or the 3 stories that I've heard it being said in real life. I don't know if you were here.
No, I heard that.
But again, okay, yeah. So again, it's not been common, but there is always agendas that behind anything that happens. So even this situation is an agenda. Okay, so the BBC had an agenda because the fact is they didn't censor the word. Okay, they didn't censor it, right? But they did, but they did censor Free Palestine. That's definitely an agenda. We know the show is not live. It's edited and then it's broadcasted. We also know that this is like 3 or 4 times, I think in the last sort of 4 years, that the N-word has been broadcasted by the BBC. They're doing it more and more now, so it becomes normalized. So this is why we're having these conversations, right? It's just so you realize that it's not normal. It is the media making it seem normal so that people try to become so desensitized towards a word that actually still affects us very greatly. Very greatly. There's so much history behind the word that a lot of white people will say, well, it's just a word because you're not willing to actually do the conversation. Yeah, I'm glad that you don't. But like, I just want people to realize this is mainly the conversation for us as black and brown people and as we've said, it is still the minority of black people that use the word. We don't use it generally, but they push into these algorithms on TikTok the N-word. They push it so it makes it seem like it's normal. It's not normal. It is not in our everyday vocabulary. Most black people around the world are not using this word. But white people, and I do also say at the same time, I hate when black people use that word. Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that word because sometimes it gets flagged for the H word, but I despise it. I've never used it. I never will, never ever will. And I do think it is a reason why white people also say the word as well. For me, I see things like this. Every time a black person says the N word, there is a white person behind them saying, well, I can say it too. And it's just hilarious, blah, blah, blah. And so it keeps it in circulation. I'm very aware of the history of words. Therefore, I don't use it. Yeah.
I have to completely disagree with that. I feel like I disagree with most of what you said until that last bit. I was like completely agreeing with you, where you said every time a black person says the N word and then a white person's behind it saying, I can say that too. I really disagree. I really disagree with that because for example,
you've just told me, did you not say earlier that you heard white people saying the word?
No, I said I haven't heard white people saying the word. I've heard black people saying it. I said non-white people saying the word.
But we
Sorry,
know
no,
white
not
people
non.
say the word.
I no, not non-white. I've messed up on my words. Not non-white. I meant to say like black, but or
Okay.
sometimes I've
But you know,
gotten
but
like stick for saying that.
that's fine. But do you know that white people came up with the word, right? You know
Yeah,
that they invented the
100%.
word.
No, I 100%. I'm studying history at uni. I'd hope to know the word. Like, for example, yeah, no, it's not going right. Yeah,
Right, we're going to
thank
move
you.
to the next person. Thank you,
Go on then.
Chris, for the conversation and the conversations. We've got Greg, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. We've still got like people who want to come up, and I don't want to do anymore because I'm tired now. Thank you, Chris. Right, Greg, how are you today on the panel, Greg? Greg, you there? We're going to disconnect you otherwise. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Greg is gone. Okay, we've got Nax Chud. Ew, I don't like your name. Let's see what you got
Hello?
to say. What have you got to say?
Oh, you
Hello,
don't like
how
my
are you?
name? I'm good,
No.
thanks.
But what do you want to add to the topic? What do you want to add to the topic today?
I just personally think that the word, obviously, it's a disgusting word. I don't think it should be used. I don't like people excusing it. I don't think if you have Tourette's, I don't think that's an excuse. I don't think, whatever disability you can have, autism. I don't care if you have like Down syndrome. I just don't think personally it should be used. I don't think it's acceptable. No one really should be using it.
This is the thing, right? This is not a case of whether they should or shouldn't do it. This disability is uncontrollable. It's uncontrollable.
I don't
What
care,
we're trying to have in
personally.
the conversation, yeah. Well, then that means that you don't actually understand disabilities.
I understand disabilities.
But you can't because you're not understanding what Tourette's is.
What is it? And I think I do understand, but would you mind just...
No, but I've disconnected you now because that was just silly. What a shame that we ended the conversation in that way, because I feel like generally a lot of this conversation actually was quite productive. So yeah, we ended in a nice bit of discrimination there, a nice bit of ableism at the end. So, I think this has been a really interesting conversation. For me, I feel a lot better. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and being really understanding. Of course, we saw a lot of white racists in the chat excusing the racism, not willing to understand that this should have been a teachable moment for everybody to understand the implications of somebody's tick. That there was, of course, people in the comment section who also did have Tourette's, saying that they don't have certain slurs in their ticks, which is fine. But when other people do, it is how do you understand that what you've said does still hurt somebody, right? And again, it just boils down to human behavior. If you do something wrong and you make a mistake, apologize. Why is apologizing so freaking hard? We have the ability to see the bigger picture. We know that this is an agenda. They want to push the N-word and make it more mainstream so black people are on the back foot. This is what they've constantly been doing throughout the Western world. We have to be smarter than that. We have to be a lot smarter than that. Really a lot smarter. So yeah, nobody's asking him to apologize for a disability. Nobody has said that. Nobody has ever said, I've never said he needs to apologize for having a disability. That's a stupid thing to even think or expect from somebody. You can't do that. What you need to apologize is for what was said and the implications. And again, as I said, use it as a teaching moment. For example, oh my God, I'm so sorry I said that slur. Having this racial slur is really awkward and difficult for me because I don't feel that way about these certain things. How I try to handle it is X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. That's called accountability. It's called recognizing. It's actually being very mature about situation. Unfortunately, the racists in the comments don't have the ability to be mature. They don't. So we've got a lot of people, no, he hasn't apologized. He hasn't apologized. He hasn't said anything yet. The worst thing about it is that nobody has said anything to Michael B. Jordan and to Delroy Lindo. They've not said anything to them. They're in the dark as of this moment. And yeah, it's just very, very unfortunate that a lot of people, as I've said, all of a sudden just is thinking that they're an expert on Tourette's. They're thinking they're an expert on coprolalia. They're thinking they're an expert on racism. No. And what's frustrating for me is that I'm seeing black women now being made the poster child of Tourette's with slurs. But again, in their videos, they're not saying slurs. They're not saying slurs, any of them. They're even talking about it and not saying slurs. You know, and this is what the racists want. The racists want to be like, hey, there's a black person there saying that. A black person is saying that. So it means it's okay. And you know what white people do? You know, there's going to be a slurry of white people coming out being like, I've always had Tourette's. Because we've already seen, I don't know if you guys have seen this, there was already that white person, that white woman who pretended she had Tourette's. Have you seen that? That white American woman for like last year or the year before, she pretended she had Tourette's for followers. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw her. So yeah, don't be surprised that there's going to be a lot of white people pretending to be racist, pretending to be ticks and roses. Thank you, Beth. That was it. Don't be surprised that there are going to be white people now pretending that they've got Tourette's with racial slurs. As we've heard today, the percentage is only between 10 and 30%. But you see how many people are going to come out now. Right. Thank you so much, everybody, for this random live. Thank you to my mods as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being up on the panel. Thank you, Ella. Yeah, I actually feel a lot better. Thank you. Good to see you, Leanne. I actually feel a lot better from that conversation because I was getting so annoyed of seeing all of that on my FYP. You know, it was really upsetting me, really annoying for me. But it was really good to actually just be able to have some conversation, to decompress. So I really do hope that black people, that if you were affected by the conversation, that this conversation was helpful for you. I hope so. I hope that you can actually see the bigger picture, see the agenda that is being pushed, and just know that this was not done by accident by the BBC and by the BAFTAs. It was not done an accident. You know, apologies need to be made, proper apologies need to be made. They're probably not going to be made, but I do think, again, it is very worth you looking at the John Davidson person and trying to figure out a little bit more about his background and if his apology comes through. You know, I think that's something we definitely need to keep an eye on as black people, right? Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, and keep fighting the racists. Good night. Bye.